Hello everyone, this is part 31 of What If Naruto and Hinata trained together and a spark happened, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Naruto watched as the sword descended, passing through Kitsune like the staff blade wasn't there. As the weapon reached his body, he flinched involuntarily. He had to resist the urge to close his eyes as the blade penetrated his skin and passed through the other side. Uzumaki was amazed when the sword passed through him without cutting him, without leaving a mark, without have any sort of impact that he could see or feel. Instead, Madara collapsed to one knee, suddenly panting heavily. A bewildered look crossed the teen's face, as the immortal lifted his head again, glaring at the teen. Despite the attack only being a mental construct, Madara could have sworn he felt the demon's teeth slicing him in half. Just as the pain became too intense to bear, Uchiha was back in the real world, once again facing the boy. His body still burning with agony, it was all he could do to keep from collapsing completely. But with each ragged breath, the phantom pain faded, and he raised his eyes to study the youth. Naruto looked utterly baffled, which gave Madara a small comfort. The Akatsuki leader decided not to reveal to the boy what he had experienced, mainly from spite, but also in case the inventive teen could find a way to turn it to his advantage. Madara started to contemplate his options, but Naruto did not give him the chance. He closed the distance to the immortal, Kitsune still raised from his attempt to block Susanoo. He swung downwards at an angle, aiming to shatter Madara's right shoulder. Uchiha shuddered from the effort, but turned away from the attack and pushed the weapon away. Think, Madara admonished himself, recalling the words he had drilled into his sons, avoid and learn. Do not waste energy. Let your opponent give you the chance to kill. The Akatsuki founder knocked away another strike, annoyed that he had allowed Orochimaru and Naruto to get under his skin to the extent that he was fighting like a common ninja. He stepped away from a kick, and ducked under the easily readable follow-up punch and slash combo. He is faster than my body, but not faster than my Shanin Sharingan, Madara thought. If I read his moves correctly, I can defeat him. His eyes took in every twitch of Naruto's muscles, and he continued to deflect or dodge all of Naruto's strikes even as the younger fighter ramped up his attacks. Uzumaki stabbed forward, and Madara twisted past the pole. The Leaf Chunin tried to follow up with a snap kick, but Madara caught his leg and pushed him away. The teen recovered quickly and charged in again, but still he could not connect, to his growing annoyance and desperation. Darn it! Naruto bellowed as Madara gently knocked aside his elbow, and leaned back far enough that the blonde Chunin's headbutt missed. He swung Kitsune wildly at the traitor's neck, and Madara snorted in amusement as he sidestepped the amateurish move. This is worse than fighting, Kakashi, Yukihana's son continued, as the tip of Kitsune passed within inches of Uchiha's stomach. He continued the momentum from the failed strike, shifting the staff blade to an underhanded grip in his left hand. Dodge this, he challenged, instantly creating a 2-foot diameter sphere of roiling chakra in his now empty right hand, Rasengan. Madara looked thoroughly unimpressed as he tapped the teen's forearm, sending the attack wide. Got you, Naruto crowed silently. He shifted his weight to his back foot, and rotated his body, swinging around Kitsune, now wrapped in the Raisin blade. The sword rocketed towards Madara's spine, threatening to bisect the first Uchiha. Unfortunately, the immortal anticipated the attack, and stopped the fox-faced young man cold by catching Naruto's elbow with his right hand. The defensive fighter was forced to expend some of his chakra to increase his speed and strength, but Madara felt it was worth it for the angry yet worried expression on the Leaf Ninja's face. According to his reports, Itachi was only able to teach Kakashi the rudiments of the Uchiha fighting style. Madara lectured smugly. After all, the so-called copy ninja can't even properly control Obito's Sharingan. There is no way he could possibly reach my level. Let me show you. Right jab, right cross, left back fist. Uchiha announced Naruto's moves as the younger man executed them, also neatly dodging each strike. Transfer the toy, diagonal slash, left roundhouse kick, sweep the legs, right side thrust kick. Sorry, those last two were mine, Madara continued, tripping Naruto out of his stance and then knocking him into the wall before he could fall. The younger warrior hastily jumped to his feet, but kept his distance, glowering at his enemy. Is that all? Madara asked contemptuously. You absorb the most powerful demon in this world, and all you get is a massive supply of chakra and a built-in healing jutsu. I'm also stronger and faster than you. What good is that if a real Kekkei Genkai like my Sharingan negates your attacks? Madara noted. Well, there is one more thing I can do now, the Leaf Shinobi smiled, sheathing Kitsune and then placing his hands together, before it took a long jutsu and the fox's cooperation. But now all I have to do is, Ascendant Fox Jutsu. Naruto transformed instantly, gaining the thick coat of golden fur, the extended forearms and claws, and the vulpine muzzle. A shape-shifting technique. Madara chuckled, do you really think? The immortal did not complete the taunt as his face slammed into the floor, chipping his right top canine tooth. He rolled up to his knees, looking for Naruto, but he could not see the young man. Then he caught a flash, just as Uzumaki's knuckles partially collapsed Madara's voice box. That should be impossible. Madara tried to ward off the teen, but took another hit to his ribs. He's faster than if I released the Gate of Death. His speed has more than quadrupled. Madara was knocked down again, and this time he felt a handful of his spinal ligaments tear. The immortal cast caution to the wind, activating a healing jutsu, opening the first two gates, and sending more chakra to his eyes to try to track the golden blur. There, he saw Naruto moving in, and brought his left arm and leg together to block. But the blow slid between his limbs like he was standing still, throwing him into the wall. Both the stone and Madara's spine splintered from the impact. You can't run away from this, the rogue signed, tapping into the other legendary power of his clan, Kaiten, Anik Fireball Jutsu. Bright yellow flames spread out from his mouth between his fingers, filling the whole room. The heat and flames did not touch Uchiha, exactly how he had designed the maneuver. Madara watched carefully for any movement in the inferno, expecting Naruto would try to attack him to stop the jutsu, or that the teen would simply escape. When neither event occurred, he ended the jutsu with a look of grim satisfaction. But as the smoke and fire cleared, the fox-shaped man stood there, bemused and unharmed. Naruto's hilarity faded briefly, when he realized his trunks were smoking. He patted down his smoldering swimsuit, where the fire-resistant lab coat did not cover it. He met Madara's eyes, and once again grinned broadly. The QB was a fire spirit, he boasted, it will take a lot stronger flames than that to hurt me in this form. Is that it? Not yet, Uchiha grimaced, signing, Doton, Granite Wedge Jutsu. He pulled two slightly oversized kunai out of the rock face of the wall behind him. He threw the first blade at Naruto as a minor distraction and then extracted a third dagger. Then he continued, crafting another skill, while Naruto casually shattered the incoming stone blade with a casual swipe of Kitsune. Charging Cheetah Jutsu, Madara pushed off the wall with both feet and his left hand, leading with his right blade as he jetted forward. The technique was a straight-line attack, accelerating him at dangerous speeds and robbing him of the power to turn or even adequately stop. Madara did not care, for in that instant, he was again faster than Naruto, and he plunged his leading blade into Uzumaki's heart. The renegade attempted to follow up by plunging the second blade into the boy's throat, but a plume of silver energy appeared next to Naruto's physical tail. The chakra tail diverted Madara's hand and knocked the stone kunai out of his grasp. Another energy tail formed, this one wrapping around Madara's right forearm. It pulled Uchiha's limb back, extracting the rocky knife at the same time. The wound closed instantly, leaving nothing more than a bloody gash on the lab coat to mark the usually lethal strike. The chakra appendage tightened, breaking the Akatsuki founder's wrist in 3 different places. Naruto released the useless limb, and punched his opponent's solar plexus, sending the elder shinobi flying. Madara grimaced as he regained his feet. He had spent too much power, he no longer had enough chakra to use 2 of his advanced Sharingan techniques, he was not even certain he could use one. He considered his limited options quickly. The jutsu that accompanied the Shanin level were not an option, Izanagi and Izanami had no targets, and Susanoo would not only waste his chakra, it would leave him open. Naturally, the same also applied to Tsukuyomi. That left only Kamui, Amaterasu, and Sasori. Amaterasu is too dangerous, the Sharingan's originator decided, if the vixen was telling the truth, at the very least it will be a waste. Kamui might eliminate him, but with the speed he now possesses, it is unlikely he would be snared. Sasori would return me to a condition where I could fight him directly, but it probably wouldn't be enough. Give it up, Naruto interrupted his contemplation, partly misreading his opponent's hesitation. You can't win here. You should stop, before it's too late. Or what? You'll kill me. Madara barked a laugh. Better shinobi than you have tried. Sasori. Madara burned the last of his chakra to banish his injuries for the next 3 minutes. All the damage dealt to him flowed into his eyes. His broken arm set, his cut palm sealed, and the lingering chest wound given to him by Orochimaru vanished. Have it your way, Naruto growled, shadow clone jutsu. The duplicate appeared in Naruto's original form, to conserve chakra. Naruto and the copy both raised their hands, and began to spin them around, creating a large, purple sphere between them. Madara grabbed the third stone kunai where it had fallen, and leapt forward, aiming both blades at Uzumaki's neck, trying to behead the teen before he could complete the jutsu. But thanks to his transformation, the bearer the Kitsune no Chishio was faster. Odama Raiten Rasengan. Naruto and his clone roared, thrusting the sphere upwards to meet Madara. The immortal's black eyes widened as the sphere met his sternum. He gasped briefly in pain before the orb consumed his lungs. The Narutos pushed harder to counteract Madara's decreased momentum, and the roiling lightning chakra ripped through Uchiha's spine. The two parts of Madara Uchiha dropped to the floor, the majority of his torso obliterated. Only a few tendons left his arms connected to his collarbone. Naruto was mildly sickened by what he had done, but could not feel any regret. He dismissed both the clone and his ascendant fox form, taking a few steps back and breathing heavily. His chakra was running far lower than he had expected. He had not noticed before how draining the ascendant fox jutsu was, presumably because he had been drawing on the demoness's power. He estimated even if he were to use it while at full power, the technique would drain him in around 7 minutes, less if he had to use the chakra tails too. But it would be 7 minutes of near invincibility. He straightened and pondered what he should do next. Madara opened his eyes, and stared at Uzumaki. He was furious, but also impressed, and a touch frightened. This damage would take him decades to heal, and even then, he might not be as strong as he had been before. Or I could move on, he thought back to the primary reason he had attacked his Hyuga sister all those years ago. After all, here is a young, strong Kekkei Genkai with chakra and regenerative powers the likes I could not have dreamed of, he pondered, with my Sharingan and experience in Naruto's body, no one, not even the Beiyu themselves, could oppose me. Madara disconnected his optics nerves from his brain, and burned away the blood vessels still tethering him. He pushed past his lids, floating free of his original shell. The two black orbs that held his power and his soul lifted up, and he began to float slowly and quietly closer to his killer. A small part of him worried that the fox's trap might prevent this. But Uchiha had already made his decision, and he comforted himself with the knowledge that the demoness had no knowledge of this power. He tensed, preparing for the struggle. The teen was still oblivious to his presence. The disembodied eyes of the first Uchiha started to fly forward more quickly, but before he could close the distance, he froze in surprise and fear. Naruto. They heard her voice first, and both men looked over and saw the young woman standing in the door. Her uniform was a mess from a day and a half of hard travel and frequent battles. Tears streamed down her face, and her fingers were steepled before her lips. But her radiant silver eyes were full of joy and relief. Hinata was in the stairwell, halfway up to the 5th floor when she heard his voice echoing below. She spun and jumped back to the 4th floor landing. She burst through the door and tried to look for him. The defensive jutsu prevented her from seeing through the wall, but she heard him bellow in effort from the other side of the open doorway near the other end of the hall. She sprinted down the corridor, skidding to a halt before the unblocked portal. Naruto. She called to him thankfully. He was a mess. He had acquired a lab coat, but it was seriously torn, though his swimsuit was partially burned away. He was covered quite liberally in blood, and the red fluid had matted his hair to his head in a number of places. For an instant, his expression was one of shock, but then he grinned with delight. Hinata. There was a tremor in Naruto's voice when he saw her. Madara's reaction, however, was quite different. No, not those accursed silver eyes. Madara's own orbs began to shake as the thought passed through him. All thoughts of merging with Naruto fled. I cannot let her find me, not like this, he told himself. I must escape before she sees me. The Shanin Sharingan-possessed eyes floated quickly to the back of the room. When he reached the wall, Madara attuned himself to the defensive jutsu and used the body flicker to move into the chamber of the demon god statue. Still, that was not far enough away, and he levitated to top of the chamber, moving behind the statue. Hinata buried her head in his chest. He put his arms tightly around her, tearing up as she sobbed happily. See, I knew I could count on you, he whispered. She pulled her face back and nodded at him. Sakura paused before entering the room, and stepped back, hiding against the door jamb. Embarrassed and also slightly annoyed and saddened, she nevertheless fought her darker impulses and gave them a few moments. But unlike her teammates, the medic did not forget where they were, so after a 20 count, she cleared her throat loudly and entered the wrecked conference room. Naruto and Hinata jumped apart. He assumed a fighting stance, but she had already seen who it was, so the Hyuga heiress just turned to face her rival. Sakura. Naruto looked amazed. You're here too. And Neji, and Tenten, and Lee, she rolled her eyes, mildly disappointed. Shino, Sasum, Kiba, Akamaru, Ino, Shikamaru, Choji, Temari, Kankuro, and even Kaidi Mizuno. They all came to rescue me. Naruto was amazed and touched. Then he looked back at his girlfriend, slightly worried. Did you tell them? She broke the law and told them. Sakura waved her hand dismissively, just like you wanted. And nobody batted an eye. Hinata frowned at the deception, but Sakura ignored her, and continued, you're our friend, Naruto. Everyone wanted to save you. Can we get out of here? Tsunde's apprentice then pleaded. There's something I gotta do first, Naruto said seriously. Then he grinned sheepishly, and asked, can I bum a food pill off one of you? This is my last one. Hinata offered the tiny brown tablet without hesitation. Thanks, he smiled at her, and then swallowed the medicine. Then he split his attention between the two of them, and requested, can you two make sure none of our friends are in here? I'm not leaving you, Hinata protested, grabbing his arm. Don't worry, I can handle it, Sakura offered magnanimously. Naruto nodded, and the pink-haired Kunoichi dashed out with a look of moderately concealed jealousy. Stand back, Hinata, he advised tenuously, I'm not entirely sure about this. He began to sign slowly and carefully, building up his chakra deliberately. As his silver chakra began to flux visibly around him, her Byakugan noticed the pit of red in his stomach and the seals controlling it were gone. She wanted desperately to ask him what had happened, if the Akatsuki had the fox, but she held off so she wouldn't break his concentration. After taking 1 minute to craft only 20 hand signs, he slammed his fist into the floor. A complex, red-orange seal spread out from his knuckles, pulsing with energy. The symbols grew outwards until it was 4 feet in diameter. She could not tell what it did, but one thing was clear to her enhanced vision. Naruto, that's a fire release jutsu, she said, impressed but confused. Yeah, it was one of the Kyuubi's parting gifts, he informed her. She taught me some of her nastier fire techniques. He grimaced slightly, and added, I'm hoping that means I'll be able to use some more normal fire chakra jutsu, too. He could smell her doubt and curiosity, so he added, I'll tell you the rest later. For now, how long will it take to get out of here? If we don't have to fight, less than a minute, she grew more worried. Okay, I'll set it for 5, just to be safe, he nodded. He glanced back down with a look of tense focus, and muttered, hurry up, Sakura. Naruto, Hinata, another familiar voice shouted from down the hall, and Naruto looked up in surprise. Kakashi-sensei, they both said in unison as their teacher entered the room. As Naruto turned to face the Jonin, he lifted his hand from the seal. His face slowly devolved into an expression of pure horror. Naruto, is that a creeping napalm seal? The copy ninja asked tersely, all other thoughts banished when he recognized the seal. His student nodded, grabbing his girlfriend's hand as he sprinted towards the door. Kakashi-sensei, did you see Sakura? Naruto asked as he pulled Hinata into the hall. Yes, I told her I would come and get you, so I could send her to help Iruka tend to Shino, the Jonin answered, leading him back to the stairs. I sent Yugao and Kiba back, and they confirmed that no one except Hinata and Sakura made it in here. What was the timer on that seal? He changed the subject as they reached the stairwell on the 3rd floor. 5 minutes. We might have enough time, their squad leader muttered. Kakashi-sensei, what was that? Hinata asked. Kaiten, creeping napalm jutsu, he explained, a powerful seal-type jutsu that covers every surface in a given area with a burning gel. But why are you so worried? Naruto queried. I got the impression from the fox it would be bad to get caught by it, but we should have plenty of time to escape. Normally, the gel covers everything in a 500-foot diameter, and burns at 1,500 degrees for 1 hour, Kakashi explained, looking back at Naruto accusingly, but normally, the seal is only 6 inches across. So what will a seal that size do? Hinata now shared his concern. It will cover everything in a 4,000-foot diameter, and reach a temperature of 2,200 degrees. Kakashi tried and failed to keep his normal bland tone, give or take a few dozen feet and degrees. Stupid fuzzball, Naruto muttered under his breath. So we not only have to get far enough away, their leader instructed, we have to make sure all of our people get away, before this whole place melts. The two teenaged ninjas picked up their speed as they followed him out of the Akatsuki stronghold. Outside, they split up. Kakashi returned to the southern path with Yugao. Sent Kiba, Akamaru, and Anko to warn Shikamaru and the Kazekige's teams on the northern path. Hinata led Naruto back to Neji, Tenten, and Lune, still unwilling to let him out of her sight. After the quick warnings, the three groups of ninjas headed back to the western split in the valleys at top speed, with Kakashi carrying Shino in the southern group, and Nitsuki carrying Choji down the northern riverbed. When they all finally met up, they paused to look back, able to see and feel the heat rising off the molten fortress despite being miles away. Welcome back, Naruto, Hinata said happily, but also with a hint of teasing, as she took his hand. Naruto, Hinata cried out as her boyfriend was drilled to the earth. She looked back at Kiba sternly, almost threateningly. He met her glare with his own. All of the other discussions paused to observe the spectacle. What? The dog trainer growled smugly, I warned you I was going to punch him in the face next time I saw him. That's what the punk gets for lying to us all these years. Does this mean we're even? Naruto asked, aggressively amused. The question caught Kiba off guard, and he considered it for a moment. Then he shook his head, stating, probably not. I guess that depends on what happens with Shino's leg. Kakashi-sensei mentioned that. Naruto glanced over to where Sakura was treating Hinata's other former teammate, with Iruka's help and Sasam hovering close by. What happened? The three tails crushed it, Inuzuka stated angrily. The three tails. Naruto gaped at him. Hinata's expression changed to one of sad introspection. I thought that might be the case, the pale-eyed woman said softly. Is everyone else all right? Yeah. Kiba calmed slightly at her mood, thanks to Kakashi's group, and Kaidi. That must mean Shikamaru's group fought the One-Tails, she decided. Naruto turned his attention to his beloved. Based on Madara's claim, he was forced to agree. Then he looked around, noticing the emaciated Choji weakly eating the sandwich Ino was feeding him. After taking in the whole group, Uzumaki realized something. Where's Kankuro? He asked Hinata and Kiba somewhat loudly. Sakura said he came with you guys. The two were startled by the question, and both began to look for the puppeteer. Gaara apparently heard them. He broke away from the other commanders, stepping past Kakashi and Kaidi to reach Naruto. My brother is dead, he announced without preamble. As Hinata speculated, his team fought Shukaku. He sacrificed himself to save Temari, Shikamaru, and Ino. Hinata brought her hands up to her face as tears filled her eyes. Kiba cursed quietly and turned away. Naruto sighed deeply with a depressed visage, his blue orbs also moist. I'm sorry, Gaara, Uzumaki said gently, it's all my fault. Kiba's face said that he agreed, but Gaara shook his head with a firm expression that was his own version of anger. I accept your condolences, and offer my own in return, the Kazekage said, but I do not accept your claim of responsibility. But, Naruto started to protest, however, Gaara cut him off. We are shinobi. Whenever we go on a mission, there is always a chance of death, the Wind Shadow lectured him, and make no mistake, this was for my people an official mission, to rescue an ally of the Hidden Sand, and to prevent our enemies from taking the power sealed within him. Kankuro may have volunteered for the advanced team due to your friendship, and because he felt indebted to you, but it was still his job, and my decision to send him. Also, Gaara's face and tone lightened, Those responsible have been punished. Shukaku is sealed away once more, and Shima is dead. Though I could not hurt Pain or Madara directly, I have killed Deodara and taken his ring, which is a start. Madara got his. Naruto was grim yet proud. I killed him. Again, all discussion amongst the other parties ceased as they turned to stare openly at the blonde teen. Did you just say you killed Madara, Mag? Naruto. Anko asked cautiously. Madara Uchiha. Yup. Uzumaki nodded. The body certainly looked like Madara, Kakashi added. Not only looked like him, Naruto asserted, it smelled like him, and used the Sharingan. He copied my moves, just like you, Kakashi-sensei, and used both Kamui and Sasori. And the body didn't disappear when I killed him, so he wasn't a clone. It was the real deal. The muttering returned, as the various groups started to discuss the new development. In that case, the Conclave of Shadows might owe you a vote of thanks, Gaara told him, before drifting back to the other official leaders of the mission. After Kiba stalked off, Naruto noticed that everyone seemed to be keeping his or her distance from him. Except for Hinata, who still appeared determined not to let him get more than 2 feet from her. Even when she had dismissed Lune, she kept a hold on his hand. He expected the others were frightened of the Kyuubi, or of the Jinchuriki who defeated an immortal. He considered telling him the fox demon was dead, but before he could, he discovered the true reason the other shinobi were keeping the distance. Naruto was almost knocked over again, when something bumped his leg, hard. He turned back and looked down, and saw a very large, grayish cat rubbing her face against his knee. He stepped away, not fond of cats, and surprised to find such a large feline near the Akatsuki base. He wondered if one of the sand or mist ninjas had summoned the cat, who promptly closed in to headbutt his leg a 3rd time. Nie, stop. Hinata crouched by the feline, and Naruto moved back again. Naruto isn't a cat person. She reached out and scratched the cat's ears. Nie leaned into her hand and closed her eyes appreciatively. After a few moments, the feline began to purr loudly. Naruto looked around, and noticed many of their friends were staring at Hinata with the sort of looks he was used to receiving. Uzumaki turned back to his girlfriend and noticed it. The cat she was petting gently had 2 tails. Hinata, is that Nibi no Neko? Neji answered, joining them, or Nie for short. Hardly the most creative name for the cat. He smiled slightly at his cousin as he offered the sarcastic aside. Tenten also approached, more cautiously. She extended her hand to the miniaturized Bayu, and the cat licked her fingertips, and then lifted her head so the human could rub under her chin. The weapons mistress obliged, and the cat purred louder. Hinata figured out that Nie didn't want to hurt us, Tenten explained. I used my primordial chakra jutsu on her. Hinata met his gaze, and afterwards we could hear each other's thoughts, for a few minutes. I understood that she was turned into a tailed beast against her will, when the previous 2 tails was destroyed. So I gave her the chance to be a normal cat again. She showed her paramour the amulet. Most of her chakra is sealed in here. Right now, she has about the same amount of power as I did at the start of the Chunin exam 4 years ago. So it is safe for her to be around people again. And the Hokage wants to talk to you about that when we get back, Kakashi noted, closing his phone, but in the meantime, we have orders. Behind him, the 5 other mist ninjas darted to the south, leaving Kaidi behind. Hinata and Shikamaru are with me, and Naruto if he's up to it. As expected, the team nodded vigorously without even hearing the directions. The rest of you are to take Shino, Choji, and Mayuko back to the village at best speed, the copy ninja directed. The Hokage is placing Guy in charge. She wants you back as soon as possible. Hinata took off the necklace and handed it to her cousin. Nie, I want you to go with Neji for now, okay? She addressed the Bayu. The feline meowed sadly, but nodded. Naruto, if you are coming with us, you will need this, Hitaki informed his student, reaching into his backpack. He pulled out one of Naruto's uniforms, a bar of soap, and the leaf headband the teen had inherited from the 4th Hokage. Why? The blonde Chunin asked, taking the clothes thankfully. What's our mission? Probably the same as mine, the Mist Hunter noted, and Kakashi nodded. We're accompanying Gaara back to the Sunagakure, the Leaf Jonin explained. The 4 of us are going to represent the Konohagakure at Kankuro's funeral. May I ask why you are coming with us? Hinata asked Kaidi Mizuno, her tone deliberately polite. They had found a stream for Naruto to bathe in, and had just passed the border between the land of lightning and the land of silver. Naruto had cleaned himself under the watchful eyes of both Kakashi and Gaara, Hinata's blushing concession for leaving him alone. Scoured clear of the blood of both himself and his foes, Naruto felt much more at ease back in his regular attire, a full complement of kunai and shuriken joining kitsune on his person. There are things we need to discuss after the funeral, the Miss Jonan answered. The Akatsuki have been struck a major blow, and I am to speak with the Kazekage on behalf of my father. Then her expression fell, but I also want to pay my respects. I was not as close with Kankuro as the rest of you, but I liked and respected him. He was one of the few men I have met who looked more at my face than at my chest. I thought it was annoying at first, but I came to appreciate it. So if you're going to talk business, does that mean we're finally gonna go after the Akatsuki? Naruto prompted all of the Jonin. More like try to keep the momentum going, Kakashi countered, a hint of annoyance in his voice. Lady Tsunade said it was like pulling teeth to get certain members of the Conclave of Shadows to agree to this rescue mission. We have to make sure they don't go back to watching and waiting just because we killed 3 of the top-tier warriors, took back 2 of the Bayou, and destroyed 1 of their bases. 3. Naruto blinked. I killed Madara, and Gaara killed Deidara. And Hinata killed Zetsu. Shikamaru filled in, she told us about it while you were getting cleaned up. You did. Naruto looked at his girlfriend happily. He wanted to give her a hug, but could not while they were running, so he settled for saying, great job, Hinata. Though he may not have been one of their ring bearers, Temari added, Shima was a Jonin rank ninja before he left the Hidden Sand. I can't imagine Pain will be happy to lose someone like that. The woman I fought as well, Kaidi nodded. I did not learn her name or village, but her skills would have placed her as a Tokujo or Jonin. I can't imagine they would give control of the Bayou to just anyone, Gaara noted. And that's not even counting the hundreds of foot soldiers they lost, Kakashi concluded. We hurt the Akatsuki this time, so we need to make sure they can't regroup, or worse, go into hiding. The other shinobi reflected on what had occurred as they continued the journey. Go, Pain ordered, and his 12 remaining acolytes vanished, leaving to fulfill the orders they had been given. Once they were gone, the body of Yahiko sealed the room and slumped into the chair, dormant. In another room, hidden deep within the base, Nagato sighed in relief. As Madara had liked to remind him, the more paths he had active at a given time, the more it drained him. He preferred to use multiple bodies for combat, but since taking over the leader of the Hidden Grass village, he had been forced to keep that body, as well as Yahiko's body, the one the Akatsuki recognized as Lord Pian, activate most of the time. He was beginning to get dangerously thin, and was sleeping as often as not, though his paths made up for that. And, what news? Conan asked, placing her hand tenderly on his shoulder and passing over a glass of water. Nothing good, he answered softly, after taking a sip of the liquid to wet his throat. Zetsu and Deidara are dead, he continued. The acolytes were able to recover Zetsu's ring, but they believe one of the leaf or sand ninjas has claimed Deidara's ring as a trophy. They also report that Toby is dead, but due to the jutsu that destroyed the Canyon of Dawn, they were unable to recover his ring. Do you really think Madara is dead? She could not keep a slight hope from her voice. Uzumaki ruined his body, Nagato shrugged, but if his eyes escaped the destruction. And speaking of escaping, the Reaper has betrayed us far earlier than Madara anticipated. She's stolen a number of scrolls, a few artifacts, and her ring, and fled the Canyon of Dawn. You said that base was destroyed, Conan recalled. What about the statue? The 2 acolytes who survived were able to transport it here, he said ironically, not that it matters. Why? She queried, with a touch of worry. Shukaku and the 2 tails have been removed, he told her, which means the balance of powers is no longer sufficient to hold the 8 tails. What does that mean? Our best case scenario is that the Hachibi breaks free and immediately flees, he said thoughtfully. Then, if we are lucky, the strength of the 3 and 4 tails will be enough to contain the 5 tails, and vice versa. And the worst case would be the 8 tails attacking, freeing the other 3, and 1 or more of them dying, she mused. That would wreck this base and end our plans. Our plans are already at an end, he told her the next part. Naruto Uzumaki has absorbed the Kyuubi. That's not all, is it? She caught his expression, wondering what else could go wrong. The Canyon of Dawn was not the only base we lost, he He explained, the hidden villagers took advantage of our distraction. The cloud ninjas have captured the stratosphere. The stone ninja have devastated the warren. And an alliance of leaf, mines, and waterfall ninjas has taken the deep forest base. The numbers are still not clear, but between deaths and desertions, we appear to have lost almost 30% of our foot soldiers. He drank the rest of the water in a single gulp. What is our next move? She asked, forcing into her voice all of the love and trust she had for him. I need time to think, he said weakly. The first thing, a new voice instructed them, is to teleport the demon god statue to a deep ocean trench and release the 8 tails. We can still use the other 3, but it is best to have that beast out of our hair. Then we consolidate your power over the hidden grass village as a base for our next move. Master, Nagato and Conan both exclaimed in surprise, dropping to their knees. Their first day in the Sunagaku was spent recuperating, while plans were made for the memorial. Kakashi instructed Naruto not to talk about anything that had happened to him over the last few days, at least until the Hokage debriefed them. As the scorching desert day cooled into the gentle desert night on Friday, April 24th, the entire hidden sand village gathered in the square, around a new statue. Unlike the solemn affair that for the third Hokage, Kankuro's final tribute was a raucous party. Music filled the twilight air, and tables were laid out with a variety of foods and beverages, both hard and soft. Kakashi-sensei, what is all this? Naruto gaped. Despite being welcomed as friends, the 4-leaf and 1-mist shinobi had ended up clumped together amidst the reverie. The land of air has a different view of death than our countries, Kaidi noted. Right, the leaf Jonin nodded, here they believe mourning for a loved one is best done in private. Instead, a funeral is a celebration of a person's life and achievements. Come on, Shika, we're dancing. A slightly red-faced Temari emerged from the mob wearing a light kimono and holding a mug of some beverage. Her golden locks hung loose and straight, and her cheeks glowed lightly red under the torchlight. She grabbed her paramour's hand and dragged him into the crowd. A number of drunken or bold sand ninjas approached Kaidi, and eventually the face of the mist hunters allowed herself to be enticed away from her circle of allies. Kakashi excused himself to get a drink, leaving Naruto and Hinata alone. The couple drifted through the crowd. Eventually the flow of Kankuro's friends deposited them near the center of the Suna. Only when he bumped up against it did Naruto notice the statue that had not been there on his previous visits. It was made up of 5, slightly larger than human-sized figures. It's Kankuro, he noted, and Crow, Black Ant, Salamander, and Moon. He tapped the effigy with a bewildered frown. It feels like stone, but they smell like the real puppets, he whispered to Hinata, and something else smells unusual, and familiar, almost like. Before he could say it, Gaara touched his shoulder, interrupting him. The Kazekage put his finger to his lips, and Uzumaki nodded. I thought you might be drawn to this, just as I am, the Sand Jonin said quietly, so I will trust you with this secret. And I will trust it to Hinata as well, for your sake. The only other people who know are Temari and Baki. Hinata silently activated her Byakugan while hiding her face, and glimpsed a concealed compartment in the statue's chest that her Kekkei Genkai could not pierce. Shukaku is in there, isn't it? Naruto whispered, recognizing both the olfactory and chakra miasma of the demon. Under many layers of seals, Gaara nodded, his voice nearly drowned out by the crowd. And the puppets are Kankuro's weapons, the former Jinchuriki confirmed, modified so they can act independently in defense of this statue. I promise, I won't tell anyone, Naruto assured him, grateful for the honor. Hinata nodded her agreement. Then the blonde youth looked up at the statue of his fallen ally. You remember the Chunin exam semi-finals? He asked them both. Kankuro came over to talk to me. He was trying to get information out of me, though I didn't realize it at the time. I tried to brush him off, and it seemed to amuse him. He said, I like you, kid, or something to like that. And I said, yeah, well I don't like you. Later, when we became friends for real, it kinda became a joke between us. But now, I regret never taking it back. Hinata took his hand, and Gaara squeezed his shoulder. I'm sure he knew, the redeemed shinobi offered kindly. Come on, Shikamaru, Temari slurred, shaking her arms wildly, it's a party. Though initially amused and entertained by her actions, Shikamaru grew more worried with each past minute, and each empty glass. His girlfriend might occasionally let loose a little, but he had never seen her this out of control before. Maybe we should lay off the booze and sit down for a few minutes, he told her sharply. Just 'cause your country's such a shtick in the muck, she laughed at him scornfully, doesn't mean you should drag me down. I can drink all I wanna here, and I wanna drink. Do what you want, he stepped away, I'm outta here. Wait, she giggled, grabbing his hand, Don, go. Then she stumbled, crashing into him. Ooh, I'm dizzy. What a hassle, he sighed, wrapping his arm around her under her shoulders, come on, I'll take you home. Are you trying to cop a feel? Temari mumbled into his shoulder. Shikamaru helped Temari navigate her wing of the Kazekage's home, before gently placing her in bed, but as he turned to leave, a kunai flashed past him. It ended up embedded between the door and frame, wedging the exit shut. Behind him, the kunoiki stood smoothly, and wrapped her arms around him. You're not going anywhere, she whispered seductively in his ear, their hands sparring over the status of his belt. Finally, he caught her wrists and held them tight. We've been trying to do this for 2 months, he said miserably, but something always got in the way. Even though it seems like we finally have a chance now, I don't want the first time we have to be a drunken liaison the night of your brother's funeral. He tried to pull her arms gently away, but she held him tighter. Please, this time her voice was clear if forlorn. As he suspected, her inebriation was mostly, or even entirely, faked. She buried her head into his shoulder, and pressed tighter against him. Please, Shika, she said softly, just make me forget, if only for a little while. Who told you this would only take a little while? He asked sarcastically after he released her, reaching for her obi. Hours later, the couple were lying in her bed, neither as asleep as they wanted the other to believe. Temari still had her arms wrapped around him, her bare chest pressed against his back, silently imploring him to stay. He could still feel the stress in her, it had returned far too quickly after their lovemaking concluded. He gently lifted her arm, and rolled over to face her. The sand kunoiki's face was shadowed, and not just from the dim illumination in the room. Part him wanted to sigh again, but he knew that he should not. Instead, he reached out to cup her face. Her deep blue eyes lit with surprise at the kind, affectionate gesture. Cry, Temari, he implored her. Her eyes went even wider at the suggestion, and unbidden, her orbs became wet in the corners. Still she shook her head, no. You're safe here, he told her, it's just you and me. I know somewhere deep down, even you have a soft side. She chuckled at the backhanded compliment, but the moment of mirth broke her hold on her emotions. Her laughs rapidly turned to sobs, and tears poured from her eyes. Her body shuddered as she wept, and he pulled her close. She rubbed her face against his chest, and he soothingly stroked her unbound hair. He continued to hold her silently as her sobs slowly died out. Thank you, Shika, she said sincerely, smiling slightly. Then her eyes glimmered, and her normal, stern self showed through. But if you ever tell anyone, she started threatening. Are you kidding? He smirked, I'm telling everyone. Rather than angry, she pulled away, devastated and betrayed. Yup, he continued glibly, by the end of the week, everybody is going to know I finally bedded the mighty Temari. She gasped, torn between upset and relief. I mean, for some reason, Ina already think we're doing it, he fixed her with a canny eye, and she's got most of our friends convinced anyway, so I don't see what the big deal is. Jerk, she grinned irately and punched him in the arm. He grabbed her roughly, and after a moment of fake resistance, she let him pull her in for another smooch. What? You thought I was going to tell everyone having S with me made you cry? He informed her, Kiba and Naruto would never let me live that down. She chuckled, uplifted to be back to their normal interactions. Your heart is safe with me, Temari. Maybe it is, she agreed softly. Then she continued sarcastically, although I think we need to test that theory, that having S with you makes me cry. Me and my big mouth, he groaned in mock dismay. The two of you are only here because Naruto will probably tell you anyway, Tsunade informed Hinata and Sakura bluntly. As soon as Kakashi, Naruto, Hinata, Shikamaru, and Temari returned from the hidden sand village, the members of Kakashi's team had been yanked into the Hokage's office. The Sannin was in a foul mood as she activated the jutsus that would prevent any noise from leaving the room. Based on Kakashi's initial report and a few things the Kazekage told me, I suspect Naruto is about to reveal a very dangerous, very closely kept secret. The leader of the Leaf Ninjas lectured intently. I already have Kakashi's blood oath of silence on this matter, and I should get them from you three as well. Except that Hinata and Naruto both have special claims to exemption, and that's not fair to Sakura. So, for now, we'll skip it. So, tell us what happened, she ordered the blonde teen. Naruto relayed the details of his 2 days in Akatsuki custody. He flashed back to his mental war against the Kyuubi, and her subsequent bonding with him. He reflected on his increased power and chakra control, and his brief battle with the Acolytes of Pain. He gave them a blow-by-blow description of his battle with Madara and all of the taunts and exposition that were a part of it. That's what I thought, Tsunade nodded as he wound down. Just as Madara said, the Fox Demon is gone and a new Kekkei Genkai is born. So wait, you knew this was possible? Naruto frowned. Possible, if unlikely, the Hokage confirmed. One of the charges of this office is to keep that secret safe. Gaara knows too, I'm sure. The 3 young adults digested that, but their leader studied Tsunade. Lady Hokage, is there something else? He asked carefully. Yes, she answered easily, but then glared at him. But you 4 already know too much. If Hinata becomes leader of the Hyuga clan, or Naruto becomes Hokage, I'll discuss it with them then. For now, we have another matter. If he ever gets here. The members of Team Kakashi stood in uncomfortable silence, not sure what they were waiting for. The Sannin kept glancing at Hinata unnervingly yet thoughtfully. After almost 6 minutes, there was a knock at the door, and Tsunade released the wards to let the newcomer enter. Neji opened the door wide for a moment, and the two-tails cat darted in. The Hyuga Jonin hastily closed the exit. Then he walked over to Hinata. The cat was already by his cousin, rubbing against her. The demon then went to Naruto, purposely ignoring his discomfort to shed lovingly on his legs and feet. Did she give you any trouble? Hinata asked, sensing the mood as Neji returned the amulet. Personally, no, he said openly. She was remarkably well behaved, if a little overly affectionate. Almost needy. Kakashi could have sworn he saw the cat stick out her tongue at Neji, before pouncing back to her mistress. But, she prompted perceptively. While he agreed to keep it secret for now, Lord Hyashi was not happy to have a demon in the Hyuga manor, the teen Jonin answered, and some of the others who know are also less than convinced. May I go? He asked the Hokage, and she nodded her assent. After he was gone, she sealed the room again, and wheeled around on Hinata. What the heck were you thinking? She demanded, partially sealing a Bayu. Letting it have a physical form, agreeing to keep it as a pet. Naruto stepped in front of Hinata, glaring back at the Hokage. I suppose you'd rather she sealed it inside someone. He snapped back, maybe some unsuspecting kid. Or even herself. No. His pointed and justified anger deflated the medical Sannin. She took a deep breath and addressed Hinata more evenly. But what was your plan? Did you really think the Nibi no Neko could be your pet? I wasn't planning that far ahead, the Hyuga heiress admitted carefully. At first I just wanted to be sure Ne didn't hurt any members of my team. But after I connected with her, and learned about her, I wanted to help her too. And to be honest, Hinata looked at the cat apologetically. I did not totally trust Ne, but I knew that this was more likely to work if I had her agreement instead of fighting her. The cat rubbed up against Hinata again, and meowed softly, as if to communicate her understanding and forgiveness. I guess it's hard to argue with that, Tsunade sighed, slumping back into her chair, but what do you intend to do with it now? Your father has made it clear the Bayu cannot stay on the Hyuga estate. And we can't have her running free, not yet, maybe not ever. Hinata glanced at Naruto pleadingly. He matched her look for as long as he could, but then his shoulders slumped in defeat. Grammar Tsunade, Uzumaki started. I'll take her, Kakashi Hatake said. Kakashi-sensei. Hinata looked at him in relief, but Naruto and Sakura were both merely surprised by the offer. Kakashi ignored them and addressed their boss. I'm going to have plenty of space shortly, he explained, and I trust Hinata that the cat is both harmless by nature, and too weak in this form to pose a threat to a Chunin or higher-ranked ninja. But I think Hinata should keep the amulet, since she understands how it works. Tsunade nodded, understanding his not entirely concealed recommendation that the demon and the means to control her be kept within the village, yet also separate. I don't see any problem with that. The Hokage looked at Hinata, if they agree. Hinata knelt down to buy the cat, petting her, but looked up at her teacher. Can I visit her? Of course. Kakashi stopped disregarding her, whenever you want, within reason, that is. Ni. She turned her eyes to the shrunken demon. The cat was watching the copy ninja, who crouched down to meet her eyes. They exchanged frank stares, until Kakashi extended his hand. The Bayou sniffed it twice, cautiously. Then she licked his palm tentatively. Hinata smiled, and Kakashi started to scratch the feline's chin. Ni purred at him, and Sakura let out a sigh of relief. I guess that settles that. Tsunade stopped holding her breath thankfully. Then her expression became mildly sad. The rest of you can leave, she said unhappily, but there is something I need to talk to Hinata about in private. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.